Hi, welcome to the Whitey White Guy Show. I'm Whitey, and today I'm going to review the film Dumb and Dumber 2 with Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels. It came out in 2014, and it's 20 years after the first one, and it's basically kind of like a mandatory kind of thing. Like you had to make this movie. It's been exactly 20 years when they're gonna have the release date, and what have these guys been up to for 20 years? If you're not familiar, somehow there's a film called Dumb and Dumber that came out in the early 90s. It was a classic. Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels basically play Harry and Lloyd, and they're something ain't right with these guys. So they're like, I don't know if there's ever explained something specifically wrong with them, but they're either, if you'll excuse the phrase, mentally retarded or just incredibly immature or a combination of two. But they behave like elementary school students, like not just in mood or something, but the way they see and observe the world, and just like a little kid doesn't quite have the English language down and they misquote stuff. There's a line in here where Harry goes, or I'm sorry, Lloyd goes, "That's water under the fridge" instead of water under the bridge. Things like that, and then they don't know what intercourse is, even though at this point they're like in their late 40s, going on their 50s or something. So the first one was a classic. Jim Carrey, Jeff Daniels, lightning in a bottle. They crushed it. It's hilarious. So 20 years later, it's time to do an update, a sequel, if you will, and to get Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels back together and have them just like the first one. There's the most razor thin plot, really just to put sequences onto to get laughs. That's the same thing as the first one to this one. It's a lot of fun getting these two guys back together. You've got Rob Riggles in this, and I thought the scenes that he's in are really funny. Um, it's really hard to critique because I'll try to give you the plot. Jim Carrey, his character Lloyd, has been in a mental institution for the last 20 years. It's implied it's supposed to be because he fell in love with the girl in the first one and it didn't work out. Then, as Jeff Daniels has been coming to visit him every Wednesday for 20 years, and he's like, "I can't keep coming to visit you." Jim Carrey unveils that it was a gotcha. It was all a gag. So for 20 years, Jeff Daniels' character Harry has been coming to the mental asylum, and so much of this changing Jim Carrey's diapers because he's catatonic, and it was all for a gag for 20 years. So that's what they've been up to for 20 years. And so they leave the mental asylum, and you start running into the characters from the first one right away. What have these guys been up to? So the first 15 minutes or so, it's like, what's everybody been up to since the first movie? And then you find out that Jeff Daniels has a daughter that he didn't know about that got put up for adoption. Long story short, they're going to try to find the daughter because he needs a kidney transplant. So he needs his only child that he didn't know about. He needs that kidney to live. Then she got adopted by a famous scientist, and so she's going to the Ken conference where all the famous scientists come and talk about science. But she left before Harry and Lloyd got there. They need to deliver a package that has a multi-billion-dollar world-saving item in it, an invention or something. The life's work of the scientist guy that she was supposed to take but forgot because she's an idiot just like Harry and Lloyd. And so they go from the East Coast to down by the border. I forget where, down in the Southwest. It's a road trip movie with intrigue and double crosses. Shit happens. Rob Riggles there. Um, and I'm pretty okay with this movie until they get to the Ken conference, and that's where like witty dumb just becomes dumb. So when you spend a lot of time with Harry and Lloyd, and they're on the road with Rob Riggle's character, and the scientist guy married a lady who's trying to kill him and get $5 million in inheritance. Rob Riggle plays like the landscaping guy, or just like a hired hand, and he's trying to help the wife kill the scientist guy. So then he needs to kill Harry and Lloyd in order to get the box, the little yay big box that's supposed to have this guy's life work in it, that's gonna be a gift to the world and save the world or something. So they get to the Ken conference, yada yada yada. It turns out nothing's as it seems. I don't know. So you're gonna have to watch the movie if you haven't seen it, if that made any sense. It's intentionally dumb, like the first one. The first one was golden. This one's hit and miss. It's the best I can say. Half the jokes, like up until the Ken conference, I was in it to win it. There's one joke. First time I saw this, I was laughing so hard I couldn't open my eyes. I'm not making it up. I couldn't open my eyes. I was laughing so hard. Then there's other stuff where I had to stop watching it because it was so obnoxious. It just, the first one found that line perfectly between absurd and witty and absurd dumb. This one was like tap dancing on both sides. So I haven't actually watched the whole thing through because once they get to the Ken conference, it's just like, oh, this is going bad fast. But up to that point, about 3/4 of the movie was fun. It was entertaining. Fast paced, not a lot of fat to be trimmed here. Just bing, bang, boom, what you gotta know, and you're on your way. Um, but just hit and miss on the humor. And the guys, it is what it is. They're older. So they don't have the same energy. Jim Carrey, of course, holy crap, he was known for energy. This is a more subdued, um, and the physicality of what he's doing. I don't know how old Jim is, but I imagine he's probably got to be, if he's not in his 50s, he's got to be pushing 50. So, and Jeff Daniels is older than Jim Carrey is. He's definitely in his 50s, not his 60s. So I'll just say Jim's probably in his 50s, Jeff is probably in his early 60s. They're not going to be doing pratfalls and all the same kind of stuff. So it lacked a little bit of that pizzazz that the first one had. When you got Jim Carrey, Jeff Daniels, and Rob Riggle in a car together and they're traveling over the road, that stuff worked. Rob Riggle brought in some fresh blood. He understands comedic timing. He has in the movie he plays two different characters. He plays two twin brothers, and so one twin brother just has a wig and he's a little more goofy. The other guy's more serious. He's supposed to be in special ops, and they do some fun things with that. But the film as a whole just didn't quite come together. And the other thing they got to do is they've got to go back and remember this character or this theme and, little callbacks, but make it its own film. And it's fitty is whether or not that worked. There's a few times it's like, you went to the well one too many times with this one. And of course, after 20 some, 30 some odd years of Jim Carrey, it's like when Dumb and Dumber first hit, you'd never seen Jeff Daniels do comedy like this, like goofball Three Stooges-esque comedy. Jim Carrey was known for it, but Jim Carrey it was still new. He was the new fresh face. This was before even the other shit he's known for. So long I've forgotten, but it does suffer from we've seen it before now. In I want to say it was 1991, 1994. It was in there, very early 90s that this came out. And it was just new. It was fresh. It was like, wow, I haven't seen something like this. It's been imitated 500 times since. And it didn't have the same fresh feel. They're older. They don't have as much spunk. It's it goes, when a couple of guys in their late 20s, early 30s are being goofball, that's like, oh my god, they're using mustard and ketchup because of the burning sensation they're facing. Oh, that's hilarious. You see two guys in their 50s and their 60s doing it, you're like, ah, this is bordering on sad and pathetic more than hilarious. Um, so again, that's the best I could tell you. The humor was hit and miss. The jokes were hit and miss. When they hit, it was like an aging Babe Ruth. He's still clobbering a few out of there, but they're not traveling as far, and he's not hitting as many. That's what this is. It was nice to see these guys get back together. When it was rolling the first three-fourths of the film, I don't really have a qualm with. Again, some of the humor a little hit and miss, but some good times. I had some laughs. When it gets to the last the last fourth of the film, it kind of falls off the rails and falls into. We've just seen it done too many times. And in the first one, Mike Starr was in that. I'm pretty sure it was Mike Starr, played the henchman, and his logic made sense. So there was a plot where there's the main bad guy and he's trying to extort his wife or kidnap or something. I don't remember. And Mike Starr's the henchman that's got to find out what Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels are up to. And at one point he's like, "You don't kill people you don't know, because you don't know what attachments they got. Who's gonna come looking for you if you take them out?" And so it's like he was the straight man. He was logical. He was sane. He was rational, and ended up with two goofy idiots. And then when he found out they were just a couple idiots, it was hysterical. Here it's like the plot is too. It's supposed to be comedic how far fetched the plot is, but it's like the doctor guy's like, "My whole life's work is tied up into what is in this box." Spoiler: it ends up being some cupcakes that he sent to say sorry because I had to call off at the last minute. There was nothing in it. He made the whole thing up. But that Rob Riggles, like everybody jumps on that. Like we got to steal this thing. We got to kill these two guys and get this box because there's an invention in it or something worth $1 billion. But they don't even know it's in the box. And are they going to be able to explain it and make money on stuff? So the first one had a rationality, and then these two assholes were irrational and goofy. This one's just goofy, you know, and it doesn't quite work the same. Doesn't have the same balance. So this is not a bad film. I enjoyed it. I'll be honest, I skipped parts of it once they get to that Ken conference. It got too embarrassing, but most of it's pretty good. So, Dumb and Dumber 2, if you haven't seen it, it's worth it to check it out. It's good to have the old guys back for one last hurrah kind of thing. I hope they don't try this again in 20 years because it barely worked this time. So, it's every White Guy Show. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys on the next video. Cheers.